joining us today for June Craft Club. Today we're going to show you how to make a couple of fun summer crafts. So we'll be making a kite using either a reclaimed plastic bag or like pet food bag like I've used here. And then I'll also be showing you how to make a little scrubby that you can use in your kitchen. So this can be a counter scrubby or a dish scrubby just made from old socks that you probably already have lying around your house. So let's get started. So first thing is you'll want to choose your bag that you're going to be working with. Again, for the sample I made here, I was working with a pet food bag. I'm going to do a kind of sturdy plastic bag for this one. And you could also use a garbage bag if you really want a large one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first cut along the side here to open this up and just get it as big and flat as possible. Especially along the bottom edge here where it's going to be joined. I'm going to cut that just to make it one really nice big piece of material. Alright, so now I have this laid out, I can really see how big of a kite I could make. So I'm going to lay this really nice and flat as possible. And then I grabbed a couple of sticks from our yard out back. You could also use dowel rods, but sticks are pretty handy and they're already in your backyard. Just make sure you choose some that are dead or fallen so that they're a little bit more lightweight. Green ones are going to have a little bit more moisture to them. The ones that I have here are actually honeysuckle, which is great. It's really nice and strong and it's an invasive species, so it's good to get rid of it and give it new purpose. So I'm going to first take one, and this one's like not super duper straight, so I'm probably going to use this one for my shorter side. And then I'll use this one for my longer side. And it is okay if it has a little bit of a curve to it. We can kind of use that carve to arch it so that it catches the wind. So if I want my kite to be about this long, which with my ruler, looks like it's almost 2 feet here. I'm going to go ahead and either snap this if I can, or you can use something at home to cut it, like a pull saw with a miter box. I'm going to see first if I can snap mine pretty easily. It does snap really nice and easy, so I'm just going to use that. And I'll do the same for my other cross brace here. And again, you can just use your material to determine how tall you want these to be. Ideally, we're looking for kind of a cross shape here. And you want this one to be nice and long, but make sure you have this wide enough so that you have a couple of inches on each side. Alright, so once I kind of have this placed, I need to bind these together with a little bit of lashing. So I'm just going to take some cotton string. And again, if you have some yarn or something, you can use that, whatever you have at your house. I'm going to wrap across the grain here. Alright, so I have tucked this string underneath. I'm going to go ahead and basically just make a little knot here. And this is going to be really wobbly for a moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to use our finger to hold it in place. And I'm just going to wrap around in one direction a couple of times, and now I'm going to switch and I'm going to go into this side, and now I'm going to wrap around this way. So this type of binding will just really help to make this nice and strong so that it doesn't wiggle anymore. So I'm going to do that a couple of times, wrap in this direction, and then I'll switch and wrap in the other direction. Until it feels really good and strong and like it's not going to wiggle anymore. Don't get it caught on your cord. So we've still got a little bit of a wiggle to it. I'm also going to wrap back the other way one more time. and back this direction. And I think at that point I'll feel pretty good that it's going to be really nice and strong for us. Yeah, that looks much better. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and snip this off and then tie these together. So I left that tail nice and long at the beginning so that I had it to tie back to here. Go ahead and cut those guys off. And now I need to create a frame with my string that will enable us to attach the kite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom here. And I'm going to start by attaching my string in the same way, and I'm going a little bit up from the bottom, going about an inch or two up from the bottom. That's because mine's pretty raggedy down here. I'll tie my knot again and leave my long tail. And now I'm going to wrap up on top of that a little bit. Once I've got a little bit of a wrapping, I'm going to go over here to one of my corners. I could go left or right, it really doesn't matter, and do the same thing. Just kind of bind that to hold that string in place, making sure that our cross is still staying really nice and straight throughout this. I'll go up to the top here. And to prevent that from pulling down, I'm kind of wrapping on top of it, so using its own weight. Wrap down to this corner. And now we're going to go right back down to the bottom. And I'll wrap a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. I'm actually going to wrap on the inside here too to help keep this string down. And now I can tie this again with the string that I left here at the beginning. And snip these off. So at this stage it's good to go ahead and reinforce the binding we just did with just a little bit of Elmer's glue all, or if you have like a school glue at home you can use that too. I'm just adding it right on top of that binding and just kind of spreading it out. It'll just help keep those strings in place, and it'll harden up and make it nice and strong here. So we're going to let this dry for a moment. While it's drying, we can go ahead and use it to measure how we need to cut out our plastic bag. So what we're going to end up doing, as you can see on my sample, the strings are kind of concealed within this. So we want to cut our plastic really nice and wide so that it wraps around those strings. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm basically just going to trace about 1.5 inches wider than the outside of this kite shape here. And I could draw this with a marker first and then cut it out. I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. Making sure that I check it hasn't shifted spots too much as I'm working. All right, so now I want to reline that back up. And what I want to do at this point is I'm going to cut in at all of my corners, because when I wrap this around, I really want to come in and tuck around these corners and leave these corners exposed. So I'm just going to create a little notch at all of those corners with my scissors. It comes in. Perfect. So now as I begin to start to frame this out and wrap it around, there are a couple of different things I could do here. So if you have something like duct tape at home, you could use duct tape to secure this. I had packing tape at my house when I made this one, so that's what I used. Packing tape is not super strong though. You could also simply use a stapler to secure it around the outside. Or if you have a sewing machine and you want to get fancy, you can also stitch right along the inside here. So I'm going to do a mix of duct tape and some stapling action to show you what that's going to look like. So that little flap here, I just kind of tuck that underneath, and I may end up needing to cut a little bit more excess off down here as well. I'm going to start to wrap this around, and I'm going to use that duct tape to just help secure it as I do my first wrapping here. So I'll rip off a little piece. I've got the opposite side now. And you can kind of pull it a little bit taut as you work. Alright, I've got this mostly in place right now. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce everything I just did with a stapler. Kind of going every inch or so. Alright, so I've got that all attached now, but we need to add our strings in order to fly our kite. So I'm going to take some of that same string that I was using before, just make sure it's really nice and strong string such that when you pull it, it doesn't immediately snap. If you have like a really thin yarn, you'll probably be able to tell as you tug it that it's pulling apart. You want some nice strong string or cording for this. So I'm going to tie to one of my side pieces here first. Start off just with a simple double knot here. I don't need to do the lashing this time. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that this gets raised up about 6 inches above my midpoint whenever I tug it. So I'm going to do that with my finger, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece off and tie it here. I could snip my ends. That looks good. So now I need to do one that goes from my top to bottom here. And I want it to end up at the same height as this one. So what I like to do is go ahead and tie one side, tuck it underneath here, and then use these 2 points, use this point here as an anchor to determine how long I need to make this other one. So I'm going to go ahead and tie it up here. Cut off an extra long piece just to make it easy to work with. And I'm going to tuck underneath this one and kind of use them together to determine where this one needs to be. So like if I made this a little bit too long, for example, one's going to end up higher than the other, or if it's too short and I pull it, then this one will end up a little bit longer. So I just kind of want to hold them together and make sure that they end up at the same point. And once I kind of figure that out, I'll go ahead and tie a single knot down here and then tighten it up as needed to make sure before I tie my final knot that they fit really nicely. It's looking pretty good. I could probably tighten it a little bit. So I just twisted that to tug it. That's looking really good. So I'm going to go ahead and tie my second knot down here. And snip that off. All right, so this is looking great. What I want to do now is I want to create this string that we can actually fly our kite with. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause for a moment on this, and I'm going to grab a toilet paper tube. A toilet paper tube is going to function as our roll that holds our cording or our string for whenever we're flying our kite. So what we need to do first is we need to create a notch to secure our string. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of scissors and create a little notch here. And now I'm going to tuck from the inside and pull this string through. And now we've got a nice notch that's going to hold our string in place so we can start to measure it out and to wrap it. I need to measure about 40 to 60 feet of string for our kite to fly. So I'm going to just take a ruler, and that's 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, and I'm going to keep doing that until I reach about 40 to 60 feet, depending on how long you want it to fly. Now I can go ahead and cut that off because I did mine at 40. And now, since this is secured in that knot here, I'll put in that notch here, I'll go ahead and put my finger here and just begin wrapping this around. Making sure to not get tangled on your own kite. So now I have my string all wound around my toilet paper tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end that's not attached to anything yet, and we're going to attach it to this point right up here. This kind of anchor point where these two pieces meet, and we'll tie it just in a simple double knot. So I'm kind of pulling up, pulling some tension as I do this. I can again snip off my long one, or I'm sorry, my short one. Don't snip your long one off. And now this is all attached, so whenever you take this out to fly it, you'll be able to kind of just hold your fingers in this and let it roll to let it unwind when it's really catching the wind. And then you can wind it up by hand like so, either by winding like this or twisting with your fingers in the middle. If you want to add a tail to your kite, you can take some ribbon that you have around your house, and you can use some of the plastic bags or whatever you have around to tie a little bow. So I happen to have some t-shirt yarn that we were kind of twisting and playing around with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck it underneath my stick here so that it doesn't interfere with the string down here. Pull that through, and I'm just going to tie this together in a little knot. Again, make sure you don't get caught up in this part here. Alright, so I've got a little string that's coming down. If I want to add some bows to this string, I could use that same plastic material that we were working with before, or again, if you have some ribbon, you can use that as well. What I'll do is I'll just cut it into some long rectangular strips. So the one that I have here, it's about 7 or 8 inches. I'll go ahead and just tie it in a little knot. Onto the tail, and then kind of spread those out to give it a little bow look. So I'll do that a couple of times. Taking some more of my plastic bag, just cutting it into a rectangular shape, and then tying a really simple little knot here. I'm going to add one more bow. And now we've got a little tail for our kite as well. So you're ready to take this out and give it a try out in the air.